history of this project so you know where it came from. A couple of years ago, at the Gateway Center, which is a center for survivors of domestic and sexual violence and trafficking, a bunch of advocates were working with a survivor who unfortunately was killed as a result of her abuse. And at the time, we were really thinking about how there wasn't a good way for us to all come together and grieve that loss and honor the person who had died. We did end up having like a little healing circle, and it was really impactful and really powerful to just sit and talk together. But it gave myself and the former director of Gateway Center, Martha, the idea that wouldn't it be amazing if we had a more structured way to honor people who've been hurt and died as a result of interpersonal violence? And also a way for us to come together and have some like community and maybe a little bit of a ritual to honor that person's life and honor our grief and start the process of healing. And so I'll talk about the location a little bit more, but we had this idea that we could have an art installation created and installed on Gateway Center property. Gateway Center is very close to here, near 102nd and Burnside. So then we reached out to the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, which is also known as IRCO, and they also have a domestic and sexual violence program and a human trafficking program. And they are also located in Gateway Center, so they seemed like a great organization we could partner with to find funding and do this work together. That they work with the very people we want to be engaging with this art installation. And together we applied for a grant with Prosper Portland, which is an organization that funds urban development, and they have funding specifically for Gateway Center. And we were awarded that funding. So here we are now. We then went through a process to interview different artists who might be interested in taking on this work. We worked with a group of survivors. We created a panel, and the survivors reviewed the work of these different artists, and they ultimately decided to award the funding and the project to Jasmine Brown, an incredibly talented public artist, among other things. And we also worked closely with Horatio Law, who's over there, also a longtime public artist who's worked with a lot of communities on projects like this, and has been giving us some support and advice for which we're really grateful. Next slide. So a little more about our goals for this project. These are things for you to keep in mind as you're making art and giving us feedback today. One goal of the project is for it to be a place to acknowledge loss of life to domestic and sexual violence and human trafficking, sex trafficking, both past losses and present losses, and to honor those lives. It's also hopefully going to be a place, the installation itself should be a place where we can gather and be in community together and have rituals if we want to grieve current losses and to start healing. And then ultimately also, in between these moments where we're activating the installation to work through a loss, it's a space where anybody walking by can become educated and raise awareness about this issue. So we're hoping it also just has a public education aspect. Next slide. We have two potential locations on our campus, on the Gateway Center campus, for this project. And if you all have any thoughts about which location feels best, please let us know. The first location is this big grassy area. That's the driveway over there in like the far back corner. So it's to the right of the driveway. It's a beautiful open spot. There's a little bit of a hill. So it would be built somewhere back in this grassy area and accessible on the sidewalk, from the sidewalk to people walking by. One issue with this location is it is close to a Portland police station, and that police station has domestic violence advocates located there who have dealt with a lot of vandalism to their property as a result of their location, like broken windows and things like that. And they also have survivors coming to meet with them, and so they're a little nervous about this location maybe being too visible to their office and potentially making survivors feel less comfortable accessing their office if public people are visiting this spot. There may be some design things we can do to make it more private, so that's not completely off the table. Go to the next location. So I pointed out that driveway to you. Across the driveway is this Gateway Children's Center sign. So another location we could potentially have the installation is here, just up the driveway, or behind the sign, which is on the sidewalk. These locations would require taking out some landscaping, but we can add new landscaping back in. It's a little tricky because there's also a tree, so we might have to deal with some root structure, which can be pricey. But it has the benefit of being farther away from those advocates who work there. And this side on the left is still off the sidewalk, so very accessible to the public. If we put it farther up the driveway, it's a little less accessible to the public. Finally, other things to keep in mind as you're thinking about giving us advice about this project is, as I mentioned, the safety of the location and safety of the design. That we want to honor and recognize loss, but we also want this to feel empowering. We don't want it to just be depressing. We want to feel encouraged and hopeful as a result of this public art installation. We'd like it to have some ability to be activated when a death occurs. You know, that could be something like maybe there's somewhere to put flowers, maybe there's a light that gets turned on. Jasmine will have a lot of ideas about that, but we would like it to be able to be activated. We want to make sure this project honors the demographics, culture, and history of the Gateway neighborhood. Gateway District is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in Portland. So we want to make sure we're being inclusive of all the communities that live in Gateway. And we also want to recognize that Gateway has often been a little more marginalized in terms of city politics and zoning. And then finally, we want the design to feel trauma-informed and healing to people who engage with it, to not be shocking people or making people leave feeling really activated by what they read or saw there. This is our last slide before I pass it over to our artist. This is just a basic timeline for your information of the project. So right now we're in community feedback, and then Jasmine will take that feedback and begin her design phase. She'll be designing a draft proposal, and then she'll bring it back to the community for some feedback, where she can hear how that design is landing with people and then create her final design. Then May-ish through July-ish, she'll be able to start fabricating the art, and we'll be able to start prepping the location to have that art installed. And then finally, August through late fall, we will be able to install her artwork. We'll figure out a procedure, a process of how to activate the design once a death occurs. And then we'll have some kind of ribbon cutting opening event where the public can come see it for the first time. Before we pass it off to Jasmine, does anybody have any questions? Awesome, okay, let's get to the more engaging part of this workshop.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Allen Brown. I'm an artist, and I specialize in doing public art installations. This is not my first time doing a mural piece. And I've learned from my past experience of really engaging with the community and those who have suffered losses, who are still dealing with grief, and the larger community is, I think, best practice for designing a piece that's going to live on in the community for a generation. A permanent art piece and be in place for many, many decades. And so I wanted to certainly do a session that's open to the public, where people who live in this area, in this neighborhood, had a chance to share their perspectives and their voices with us. When you came in, there was there's a questionnaire that I had, and so hopefully everyone was able to grab a questionnaire as they entered. And I asked questions about themes and colors and what do you think would be an asset to the community. And I know that everybody is the best at expressing themselves in writing to a questionnaire. That's kind of a very bland way to share your perspective. So I brought some other ways to also share your ideas about this positive project. I have some sheets here that you can color. There are markers and colored pencil spread out. One has several boats, empty boats on it that says these boats can carry heavy loads. Put your worries and fears inside them and visualize you untying the ropes and watching the wind carry them out to sea. So that's one handout I have. And another is when skies are gray. And then you can draw imagery below. And another is, I want the world to know that. And then you can fill that in. So you can add your imagery with your thoughts in a visual way. And I also have just some coloring pages for folks that might be triggered and just want to relax and do some calming activity. Or for young people that just was like, I don't know anything about this, I just want to color. I'm just passing through. So I also have coloring book pages for that. Yes?
With the ones that are more prompts, are you wanting us to answer in relation to kind of the themes of the project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do this. I also have other activities here as well. You can move around and engage in different activities. This is set up for if you want to do buttons. So there's rice in the carrier here and some markers and colored pencils. So you can make your own buttons. And I can press them in the back for you when you're done with your designs. Here we also have some iPads. All these iPads have a digital art app called Procreate on it. And you can draw your ideas out on Procreate if you like. And in the back, we have a collection of musical instruments. And I would invite you, if you feel so inclined, to try out some of the instruments and maybe write a protest song or a song about grief and loss. And so we got everything from acoustic instruments to some electronic and digital stuff. That's the ocean drum. So it sounds like waves crashing. We've got a rain stick over here, some digital guitars, an acoustic one, and other electronic instruments that you can play with. We look up for you, so you can explore that as well. And so I know that we're talking about really tough topics that are hard to talk about and hard to discuss. So I want to give everyone who's who's here today, multiple ways to engage with the topic. And I hopefully will be able to get lots of information about what you think, and that potentially play into my ultimate design. All right? So this is going to be kind of a self-directed thing. I will put out the coloring sheets up here, and you can come grab if you want that. I want to start with that. And I'll be buzzing around. You can ask me any questions, and let's start a conversation. You know, I'm going to leave it open-ended. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to do this. Okay.
She's excited. She's like, yes. Buttons.
So we'll be back in a couple minutes. Peace.